Hey guys, how y'all doing? I hope everything is going well. Everything is good with me. Okay, we're gonna have a story today about Sean Christ and Cosmo Donaro. Yeah, it's horror on a farm. You already know. Cosmo came from a family that had plenty. When I say plenty of money, they had land. He had everything. He was born with a silver spoon. He was born with a gold spoon in his mouth. But this guy, oh my God, y'all, he's the devil. He's a bad seed. When I say a bad seed, you could say this young man was a bad seed. And I'm glad he's off the streets because I've never seen a story so evil. This guy was just evil. You know, they say when you get little money, you get a little crazy. Like, he didn't go a little crazy. This guy was crazy. But anyway, y'all, we're going to talk about the young men that he murdered on the farm, y'all. One name was Dean, one name was Jimmy, the other one name was Mark, and the other name was Tom. But they're saying, like, he could have killed other people. Like, they said they think he killed a female. But I'm going to be real with you, like, they really need to... You should see the property, y'all. The property is huge. So they really... I mean, that would take forever to dig this property. Y'all going to see, like, this property is so big. Like, he basically... If he didn't have an accomplice, he could have basically got away with this. Like, for real. For real. That's how big his property was. His property is beautiful. His family, not his family property is beautiful, y'all. I mean, it's so big. Like I said, this boy was born with a gold spoon in his mouth, but he was just crazy as hell. They try to say he bipolar, whatever. No, he just was evil. You know how they say bad seed? He was a bad seed. For real, y'all. But I'm going to put the video up, and y'all sit back and relax and watch this. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good day. Love y'all. Get ready for it, y'all. Alright? Peace.
Joe, get the backup. Dig the hole. Center frame. Terminal.
I don't know why I did. He's a psychopath. Say it yourself, because he'll bury you. Just like he did to those 4 boys.
Cosmo is a natural born killer. He's just a bad seed.
It's crystal clear in my mind. And even as I think about it now, I get the chills. I remember it clear as day. Just thinking we have a huge problem. Something terrible has happened.
Mom, twinning? Except one of us doesn't have any tan lines. Jurgen's natural glow gives me an idea.
Joe, get the backup. Dig the hole. Center frame. Terminal.
I don't know why I did. He's a psychopath. Say it yourself, because he'll bury you. Just like he did to those 4 boys.
Cosmo is a natural born killer. He's just a bad seed.
It's crystal clear in my mind. And even as I think about it now, I get the chills. I remember it clear as day. Just thinking we have a huge problem. Something terrible has happened.
erupt into these outbursts. He had all the money in the world, born with a silver spoon, acres of ground in prime real estate. His father had a successful business.
He knew he would become notorious for it. And once he did that, I think he became the equivalent of a man-eater.
He was kept talking about selling weed and drug deals and gun, like this mobster type of guy. And this is my cousin. Pulled the gun out. You know, I aimed it in the air, closed my eyes, and fired a shot.
That he was dead, but I just to finish, you know, I just shot.
Big story on Action News tonight is attracting enormous attention in the tri-state area and across the country. Authorities in Bucks County say they will not rest until they find the 4 men.
This area is rural, farmland, big open fields.
Jeff Cherico is a former 6 ABC reporter. On Sunday, July 9th, Jeff gets a call from a source.
And he said, all right, because you know those missing kids from Bucks County? I said, yeah. He said, well, I think there's something about that going on right now. Right up here, here's the old house. Right in front of the garage was one police vehicle just parked there. And that's where I knew that, okay, this was where they were investigating the missing men. I got to the police station and I said to the person at the desk, I'm Jeff with Channel 6, I said, can I talk with the chief? And just then the assistant DA walks out of the chief's office and comes up to us. And that's when I knew something was going on, because an assistant DA would not be at the Solebury Township Police Department on a Sunday afternoon unless something big was happening. I'd like to talk to you about what's the latest on the missing kids. And he said, well, how many do you know are missing? And I said, by that question, I said, well, I know that there are more than 2. And I didn't know that. But just the way he asked me that led me to believe that there was more than just 2. And then that's when he said, oh yeah, we have 4 missing men. And I thought, oh my God, this is good.
Our office is involved in a joint investigation with the Newtown Township, Plumstead Township, State Police, along with the Middletown Township Police, for several individuals that were reported missing. We have 4 people that have not been heard from since Friday. We're looking at all the different angles to hopefully bring them home safely.
We only knew a couple of the names of the missing men. We didn't even know all the names at this point. We just knew that there were 4. I guess what I was thinking is maybe they were all partying and they, passed out.
Because they're kids.
Like
they're young kids.
Yeah,
So
it was
holiday weekend.
Breaking news tonight. This is Dean Finicaro, Jimmy Tar Patrick, Mark Sturgis, and Tom Mio. All 4 young men are from Bucks County, all seemingly disappeared without a trace a few days ago.
Channel 6 reports about the missing boys first.
Where are they? A house in Solebury Township, Bucks County, may hold a clue. Sunday night, Walter is off. I'm Sarah Bloomquist, and the big story on Action News is breaking news. A possible break in the search for several missing young men from Bucks County.
Well, Sarah, police from multiple jurisdictions worked for hours trying to find these 4 missing people. They wrapped up their search about 45 minutes ago, and we now believe we know the identities of all 4 missing people.
You said the biggest investigation ever in Bucks County
that I've been involved with, and I've been here 25 years or so. We didn't know that all roads were going to lead to the farm, because each of the boys that knew Donardo knew him in a different context, meaning the 5 of them didn't all hang together. Donardo didn't hang with these 4 boys together.
Cosmo Donardo is questioned by police. He admits to picking up Finicaro, but says he dropped him off and went fishing. John Kratz, Donardo's cousin, is also questioned by police.
Marty, Sean, pleasure.
going to be a collaborative investigation that will continue until we solve this missing persons incident. It became more and more apparent that this farm was going to be critical in our investigation. We had the cadaver dogs come to the farm, and they essentially identified 5 very specific locations. So we had teams that were on site at the farm, teams that were out running down leads, trying to backtrack and reconstruct these boys, what turned out to be their last moments alive, and simultaneously trying to build up information about Cosmo DiNardo, because that was the DiNardo farm.
Cosmo DiNardo is an heir to his family's concrete business. The 20-year-old lives in Bensalem. His family owns millions of dollars in real estate in Bucks County, including this farm in Solebury Township. The media is now camped outside the farm 24/7, along with the victims' loved ones.
Whole thing, we're scared.
He was just so close to me as one of my best friends, and he was such a good person. Everyone deserved a Jimmy in their life, and now he's not. I'm sorry.
Just a massive in scope, and it's going to take all of our effort and all of your patience and the public's tips to help us solve this crime. We're using anything from major construction equipment all the way down to the finest sifting equipment that you can imagine.
Another day of digging for clues, but still no sign of 4 missing men.
And we were running out of the sites to dig that the dogs had hit on. I really started to break down, because I said to her, I have to find these boys. I have to find them. And we weren't finding them. And I remember this just gorgeous. Now I picture it as a weeping willow. We all congregate under this tree to get some shade because it's so hot. And I just remember feeling like a little bit of comfort, because we're in the shade of this beautiful tree, and I'm talking to these people, and Greg is with me, and some of the police are with me, and just trying to tell them what we know and what to expect and how to manage this. And then Sharon Patrick at the end, she says, do you mind if we all hold hands and pray? And we did.
Just after midnight came word of a major break in the case of 4 missing men from Bucks County. It is terribly sad news for the families who have been waiting and praying.
We have found human remains.
Remains of one of the young men have positively been identified, but the district attorney says that there are more remains and not common graves. So the investigation in Solebury Township will continue today. Meanwhile, here in Doylestown, we are hearing from sources that the parents of the person of interest have been subpoenaed to appear before a Bucks County grand jury this morning.
The gruesome and disturbing case involving drugs, murders, and burials by 2 cousins on a sprawling farm have left many here in shock and disbelief. All 3 bodies are placed in a metal tank DiNardo called the Pig Roaster and set them on fire. The next day, the men returned to bury the tank 12 feet underground using the backhoe.
6, 7, 8, 9 feet down, we hit the oil tank. Then underneath that, 11, 12 feet down, we find 3 of the boys.
And a major development today, within the last hour, Cosmo DiNardo is back behind bars. There he is, this time on $5 million cash bail.
So we use that as the basis to charge DiNardo with stealing Tommy's car because he had offered it for sale. And he had all the papers. And I'll tell you, we told the district judge and said, listen, this guy's a person of interest in a quadruple homicide, 4 missing boys. And yes, this is the theft of one of the boys' cars. We want to hold him. So we need extraordinary bail.
The last bail released, Donardo's family was able to pay 10% of $1 million on a separate case. That option was taken off the table this time around. The judge setting that hefty $5 million cash bail. She says it is the highest bail that she has ever set.
We just started to increase the tension and the pressure on him. And it was then that we made this agreement with him. I think he saw the walls closing in. Your client has one card to play. He can bargain for his life.
20-year-old Cosmo DiNardo confessed to killing 4 young men and burying their bodies on his family's Solebury Township farm.
So, when they turn their backs on me, I shoot Tom in the back, drop him. Mark's like, what the? He was such a big kid, I knew to be gone.
In DiNardo's confession, it comes out that Patrick was killed first when DiNardo met him at the farm to buy marijuana on July 5th. Next came Finicaro on July 7th, followed by friends Mayo and Sturgis. Sturgis and Mayo had been lured to the farm from Peddler's Village for a marijuana deal. Finicaro, Mayo, and Sturgis's bodies were found on July 11th, but Patrick's was still missing. The district attorney takes the death penalty off the table for DiNardo if he tells them where Patrick's remains were.
You guys are digging right here. Yep. There's 3 bodies there. Okay. The 4th one was right there. They act like they're getting ready to do a transaction. Cosmo pulls a gun off his hip, shoots this way, and then shoots this way, shooting both of the 2nd and 3rd victims. Okay. Dropping the one.
He closed his eyes and pulled the trigger. But he had an honest belief that Cosmo was testing him at the time because Dean couldn't see him. Dean was turned around. And he thought the gun was going to go click because he didn't think it was possibly have bullets in it. And he didn't know if Cosmo had another gun. That if he didn't shoot him, he would shoot him.
Save yourself. You can't bring them back. You can give them injustice.
Did you murder Jimmy Chalk-Action? Yes, I did. Yes, I murdered Mark Sturgis. I murdered Tom Mayo.
To say, even a sympathy, even you're sorry? I'm sorry.
Philadelphia police were at this home on the 800 block of McGee Avenue in Lawndale late last night, as sources say they took a second person into custody in connection with the case. That man was later seen being escorted from Northeast detectives and put into a vehicle overnight. This morning, investigators searched a property in Ambler in connection with the second person taken into custody. This all comes after 20-year-old Cosmo DiNardo of Bensalem confessed to participating in or committing the murders of 4 missing men yesterday.
And I said to him, yo, why are you doing this? I say, like, your family has money. You don't need to rob them. He's like telling him he's got pounds of weed, but he doesn't have the pounds of weed. He's just going off.
Sean Kratz's mom convinces him to confess.
Save yourself, because he'll bury you. Just like he did to those 4 boys. Okay? Save yourself. You can't bring them back, but you can give them injustice. Okay? It's fine. I don't know why we're related to him. It's okay. We're not related now.
But Kratz only gives a partial confession, detailing how DiNardo shot Mayo and Sturgis, eventually crushing Mayo with a backhoe.
They act like they're getting ready to do a transaction. Cosmo pulls a gun off his hip, shoots this way, and then shoots this way, shooting both of the 2nd and 3rd victims. Okay. Dropping the one, he collapsed. Okay. One was yelling, then he tells him he was going to take him to the hospital. I start to throw up.
Kratz initially denies killing Finicaro, then later he confessed.
I pulled the gun out. You know, I aimed it in the air, closed my eyes, and fired a shot. Cosmo fired a shot. I don't know if he fired. I know he fired at least one. I don't know if he fired more than one. By that point, I, kind of rushed out the barn and kind of, spit up, was just all dramatic and shaking up over it. And Cosmo came out, with the gun in his hand, laughing like, relax, you ain't never see a dead body.
Defense attorney Chuck Peruto took over for Kratz's original attorney and handled his appeal and trial. He says DiNardo's mother and Kratz's mother encouraged the cousins to develop a friendship, hoping they would be a good influence on one another.
Give us a little bit of insight into what that relationship really was like.
You have Cosmo, an overbearing idol as far as Sean is concerned. Sean never get to enjoy anything in life, like riding on four-wheelers, horses, all this ground, shooting guns, neat stuff. So the parents, the cousins themselves, get together and they decide that Sean should get together with Cosmo down the shore. Lethal combination. Sean is a follower. Cosmo is a leader, but a leader in a bad way. They go down and they hatch this plan where they're going to go target practicing on Cosmo's land. And Sean is eating this up. Wow, firing guns with real bullets. This is cool. We're going to ride four-wheelers. This is cool. Even if you read Cosmo's confession, there was no talk about killing people. Sean had just been shot 19 times a couple of months before. So he was 118 pounds at the time. He was fragile. So he goes up there. They do have target practice. And then Cosmo starts talking crazy.
He kept talking about selling weed and drug deals and guns. Like this mobster type of guy. And this is my cousin.
Once he realized that Sean may be receptive to this, Cosmo starts talking very crazy. And Sean, instead of saying what an average normal person would say, he sucks it up. For three reasons. One, his brain is mush. The poor kid is just not that bright. He was tested twice by two different doctors, so it's 79 on IQ, which is very, very low. So he's a sponge. He's going to soak this up. Two, Cosmo is very domineering.
He just, after knowing, what he's capable of, scared, not only for myself, for others.
Then, in a surprise move, DiNardo's cousin, Sean Kratz, who's linked to 3 of the murders, rejected his plea deal just moments before his hearing was set to begin this afternoon.
I'm disheartened about the rejection because I just feel so badly for these families. They were prepared today to have this saga in their life be over.
Under the rejected deal, Kratz would have been sentenced to 59 to 118 years in jail. Now, though, his case will go to trial and prosecutors will seek the death penalty.
The same day prosecutors were negotiating that plea deal for Kratz, the families arrived to give their impact statements at DiNardo's plea.
The last statement of the day was from Mark Sturgis's mom when she mentioned that her 2 daughters were left with part of a mother now because part of her has been lost through Mark's death.
Kratz heads to trial for the deaths of Finicaro, Sturgis, and Mayo. His attorney says it was kill or be killed.
He closed his eyes and pulled the trigger. But he had an honest belief that Cosmo was testing him at the time because Dean couldn't see him. Dean was turned around. And he thought the gun was going to go click because he didn't think it was possibly have bullets in it. And he didn't know if Cosmo had another gun. That if he didn't shoot him, he would shoot him.
I don't buy that. I think he was dragged into this set of circumstances because of Cosmo DiNardo, but he did not have clean hands coming to this situation.
Breaking right now, guilty verdicts from a Bucks County jury tasked with deciding the case against Sean Kratz. He's the accomplice, now convicted for his role in the high-profile murders of 4 men back in the summer of 2017. Action News reporter Annie McCormick was inside the courtroom when that verdict was read today. She's live now outside the courthouse with the scene from there.
And Brian and Chris,
conspiracy. It took nearly 18 hours of deliberations, but those jurors came to their decision this afternoon. 22-year-old Sean Kratz of Philadelphia found guilty of first and second degree murder in the death of Dean Finicaro. Additionally, jurors found him guilty of voluntary manslaughter in the deaths of Thomas Mayo and Mark Sturgis. Kratz's conviction qualifies him for the death penalty. Again, the families came together to make the decision. Persuaded by Finicaro's family, they do not pursue the death penalty.
He was convicted last week for his role in the murders of 4 young men found buried at a Bucks County farm. Today, more than 2 years after that grisly crime, Sean Kratz has learned his punishment. He'll now spend life in prison. Action News' Walter Perez live now at the courthouse in Doylestown, where that sentence was handed down. Walter, lots of emotion in that courtroom today.
That's right, Brian and Jeanette. The day started with a surprise move, first of all, by the prosecution. DA Matt Weintraub deciding to drop the option for the death penalty in this case. Now, the DA says he did discuss this plan with the family members beforehand, admitting the support was not unanimous, but there was a consensus.
And he was an utter and miserable failure.
That is Bucks County DA Matt Weintraub's assessment of Sean Kratz, who today was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Weintraub saying he is happy that the jury did not buy the defense claim that Kratz was too afraid and unintelligent to thwart the murders of 4 young men during the summer of 2017.
We miss Jimmy every day. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't cry or think of Jimmy.
Had he not had access to the gun, the backhoe, the pig roaster, and the farm itself, this crime could not have been committed.
DiNardo had been known to police since he was 14 years old. Court documents stated he suffered from mental illness and had been the subject of an involuntary commitment to a mental institution. The DiNardos filed suit against the University of Pennsylvania Health System for negligent psychiatrist treatment in 2020. His mother, Sandra, gave an interview to Philadelphia Magazine explaining what led up to his erratic behavior. 2016.
Sandra would ultimately seek help from at least 10 different psychiatrists and psychologists at 8 different hospitals and mental health clinics.
She also turned to the Catholic Church.
Cosmo warned her that he was under spiritual attack and was hearing voices telling him to do violent things. She turned to the church for help, asking her parish priest to perform a spiritual cleansing of her house to exorcise any demons that might be lurking. Declared that Cosmo's bipolar disorder was in full remission and that he'd reduced his medications. That day in the office, according to the suit, he completely stopped Cosmo's medications.
Did you murder Jimmy Charpak?
Yes, I did. Yes, I murdered Mark Sturgis.
And who's this?
I murdered Tom Mayo.
There is still one question that remains. Did Cosmo DiNardo kill before?
Versus Tell Action News, DiNardo said he participated in the murder of a woman who was then set on fire in a basement, and the murder of another man, but gave only a nickname. He said both murders happened 5 years ago, but then added that killings could have happened last year. Investigators point out DiNardo has a history of mental health issues.
When you're dealing with someone that seems like they're pathological like that, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what their state of mind was.
Do you think Jimmy Patrick was the first person do you think these 4 boys are the only people that he's killed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that if they hadn't had families that were looking for them and it had taken much longer to realize that they were all missing, that he could have kept killing?
Yes.
The motive for all of this?
I'm not really sure if we could ever answer that question.